Hammer in the building. What is up? Here for the Dynasty show Sunday night.
Fuck yeah. You know how we do.
I know you missed
What's
that.
happening?
Shit, you missed the last show.
I know. I checked it out. I watched some of it.
Did you?
I did.
Wait, which one?
Not all of it.
The one
Some
on
of it.
Hustler's channel, or are you talking about with Matt Waldman that we had?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so that one. Yeah, we did Thursday on that one, and then we jumped right over to the other channel afterwards. But yeah, that was a really good show. So if you guys missed that, make sure you go check that out. But last week we talked about the AFC East. This week, let's talk about the NFC East. Bagalar's boy. He's not even here to defend them.
But that shouldn't surprise any of us.
Oh yeah. Typically one of like the worst divisions in football. Now pretty good Eagles team, pretty good Cowboys team, Giants team that's trying to look up, and a Commanders team that's kind of just in the middle.
Nah.
What do you think about this division now?
Well, I think with the emergence of Jalen Hurts, pretty much everybody looked at it as Cowboys and everybody else. And essentially in one season, it became Philadelphia and everybody else. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much where I'm looking at it. It starts with the Eagles. And if Dallas, I don't know if Dallas has enough to overtake Philly in that division. Just because Philly's so dynamic and so young still. I know they lost some pieces defensively, but they had an excellent draft. And you got to like their chances. They signed Jalen Hurts to the bag. So you really got to look at Philly as the kind of reigning champ of that division, at least for the next 3 to 5 year, that window. So can Dallas do anything about it? I'm not sure. Anything can happen in the NFL, but you got to like Philly and everybody else.
Yeah. Jamie, what up? What is good? Yeah, I mean, Philly pretty much has to be on top. Dallas is going to be there. They'll be a close second. I mean, as long as they got Dak, as long as they got CD and a pretty good defense, they'll be right there. The Giants are kind of underneath that, but they can still make the playoffs, I guess.
Well, and I've been listening to a lot of especially when the schedule came out, there was obviously a big thing made about the schedule coming out. And a big thing with the schedule coming out was that the Giants were the beneficiary of a pretty soft schedule last year when you looked at it at the end. And it doesn't appear that they're going to be the beneficiary of a soft schedule. Now, I'm not a big fan of looking into the schedules because I think, especially in the NFL, like you could finish last in your division one year and first in your division the next year. If you have a good draft, good free agency, if you're, top level guys, take that next leap. So I'm not a big proponent in just looking at the schedule and being able to determine, what a team is going to do just based off their schedule. You still have to go out there and play the games. You still have to go out there and do a lot of things. So injuries, obviously, we talk about injuries that you can't ignore that. Who's injured at what time of the season may lead to some wins or some losses that you didn't expect. So I think the Giants, I think they're an average team, 8-9, 9-8, somewhere around there. I think they were the beneficiary of a pretty soft schedule as it turned out to be, but they're interesting because you don't really know what to make of them. You got to see Daniel Jones kind of really take that next leap.
Yeah, And can Daniel Jones take that next leap? I mean, is he going to take that Jalen Hurts type league? Was it a ceiling for him last year, or was it not because he didn't really have any wide receivers? But I just don't know how good he can really be. Like I think last year was that's him. I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a realistic expectation now. I don't know if you're somebody who throws for 15 touchdowns if you're worth $40 million. Like that's never that's not kind of the standard
No,
for that kind of quarterback. But he does have the rushing upside. That's the one thing obviously we take a look at his rushing upside, but I don't know.
it's not like they got a bunch of great wide receivers for him to throw to. Like he's just got a bunch of like they got a bunch of wide receivers over there now.
They did pick up Darren Waller.
Yeah, I mean you got Waller, you got Hyatt, you've got Wandell if he's ready for the start for the season. You've got what Hodgins. You've got they have like a bunch of dudes, right? Shepard, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because they have a bunch of dudes, but they don't have a dude,
Yeah,
which you really wish that they would have went out and try and get one of those guys, but they ended up not. So yeah.
Paris Campbell. That's right. Another guy. That's right. They got I forgot about him. Shit. Paris Campbell.
Mm,
Kevin, what up? Hammer time.
Appreciate that, Kev.
Oh shit! Shout out to Steve. You had a message him during my rookie draft, second round pick. Ended up picking Charbonnet. Yep, I'll
Nice.
take it. I'll take it, bro. Can't believe Addison fell to me at 110. Yeah, that's crazy. Bro.
Nice.
Addison falling you at 110. I mean, yeah, that's good. Who went ahead of Addison that he fell all the way to 110? I guess Zay Flowers. Somebody else had to have.
You'd imagine the quarterbacks went. Maybe somebody
Maybe
picked up
Will Levis.
Kincaid. Maybe Kincaid went.
Yeah, Will Levis, Kincaid, maybe. That's true. But yeah, so I don't know about Daniel Jones. I mean, decent quarterback to have. I mean, but you got to hope that he has that rushing upside. But does he actually have the ability to throw for 30 touchdowns in a season?
I don't think so. And who knows if they're going to script the offense for that? They still Saquon's obviously still on that team, so
Yeah, are they re-signing Saquon or what? I mean, that still hasn't been figured out, has it? Right? He didn't sign the franchise tag yet, or like I don't
No,
know.
I would imagine that they're going to sign that he'll sign the franchise tag now. They have, I know you have up until I don't know if it's July 1st or June 1st. There's a deadline sometime. I think it might be July 1st to sign a long-term deal or to come to a long-term deal if you're under the franchise tag or you sign it and play under that. So that'll be interesting to see. But I don't know. Considering the money they gave to Daniel Jones, I don't know how they're gonna. I don't know how they're gonna fit Saquon in that mix.
I don't know. So
He
I mean,
he he definitely took an L this year.
Yeah, I mean, what do you feel about Saquon's dynasty value outlook? I mean, is he worth actually even drafting in a startup? Yeah, what do
Yeah,
you feel about Saquon just in general?
somebody like him who's obviously he's a really good runner. He's a really good pass catcher. I think that's an underrated part of his game is his ability to catch the ball as well. So I think he's going to be valuable, but I think where you get him is really what's going to determine his value, right? Because if he's going at the first, the end of the first, beginning of the second turn, I feel like you could get better value upside guys. But if you get him in, say, the middle of the third, somewhere front end of the third, obviously we're talking super flex, so third round. back end third, somewhere in that range, then I think it could be decent value. You know what I mean? So, and I think he's a piece that people still will trade for. So he could even be an asset during the season. Say he rips off a really good run in the first 6-8 games, somebody's going to pay for him. You know what I mean? So they, the talent, he's a dude, right? He's a needle mover on your team. So I think he's still a good, valuable asset. It sucks that he couldn't get a long-term deal, because if he would have got that long-term deal with the Giants, you would have felt a lot better about his prospects going over the next 3+ years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for at least the next 3-4 years. I'm not really comfortable drafting him in startups. He's just not really a guy that I want to go after unless he, falls, to where he's a value at a certain point. But I mean, I have him in one of our dynasty league, but
you bought him in the home league.
Yeah, I mean, he's still worth a first round pick. I mean,
110.
Yeah, maybe
108.
maybe even
108 to
higher than
110.
that. 107, maybe. After the Gibbs and JSN pretty much. But
it's just so interesting, and it's not for the lack of the Giants wanting to sign him. They wanted to sign him. He just didn't want to sign at the price they were giving him. And I kept saying this, is that, do you think they're just yeah, no, that Kevin, that's the point I was just going to bring up. They're not scared to sign him, Kev. They actually offered him a 4-year, $12.5 million deal. Well, 12.5 per year. So it was 4 years, $50 million during the Giants bye week. And he turned it down because he wanted 15 mil. He wanted Christian McCaffrey money. He's not getting that. So, man, it's bad. They want him, but they want him at their number, not at his number. And that was the big snag. So he's going to get, what's he going to get this year at the running back franchise? Was it 10?
I think it's 10. Yeah. Yeah, 10 or 12, maybe 12 actually. I don't know.
Right. So he could have had a
10, 11, whatever. Something like that.
So he could have had a 4-year, $50 million deal. He probably would have got 38 to 40 of it guaranteed, and he would have been fine. And he would have been there for the next, call it 3 years on a 4-year deal. He would have been there for the next 3 years. Felt a lot better about his prospects, but it's unfortunate because he rolled the dice and he crapped out.
Yeah, it sucks. Sometimes they're greedy, right? We saw the whole Le'Veon Bell situation,
and he was never the same after that.
And listen, he does a lot. He takes the workload. He's one of the very few workhorse guys, and
he's a good dude. I mean, I know that doesn't count for much, but he's all around exactly. He's everything you want in a football player.
Teams don't want to spend that money if they can spend a lot less money and split you in half and say, okay, let's get a guy that can run up the gut. Let's get a guy that can catch the football too. A younger guy, a cheaper guy.
Draft a guy.
So it's rough. I just really wish he would have took the contract, because as far as his dynasty value, it would have still been up, even though he's up there, in age for a running back. It'll be 27 going in, but at least with the contract for 3 years, that he's the guy there. He's getting the workhorse load there.
They love him. They give him the role. Yeah,
it's just rough. If you're in a deeper league, check out this guy named Deuce Watts on the Packers. It's a deep stash dart throw. Yeah, I'll check him out. I like the other dude actually, Dubose. I like that Green Bay Packer dude, Dubose. I think that's how you say it, or Dubois, some shit. Who else is on the Giants? Really, I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson. I like. I mean, for his particular spot that he's going in, is he going to be 100% healthy at the start of the season? We'll see how that goes, but I would hope he's kind of that possession guy that they were trying to get him to be, before he got injured. So yeah, I like Wan'Dale, and there's really not anybody else. I mean, Hyatt obviously goes there. I like the spot for Hyatt. I don't know if I want to draft him. No, so
Yeah, I think obviously the guys worth rostering would be Daniel Jones, obviously as a super flex. Darren Waller, I think, could be valuable. I wouldn't, especially tight end premium. He's still got the talent. Can he stay healthy? But and then even a guy like Isaiah Hodgins, I really liked what I saw from him. He was really productive, developed a nice rapport with Daniel Jones down the stretch of the season, even into the playoffs. So I like Isaiah Hodgins a lot as a late sleeper pickup. That really came on down the stretch, man. I think he had a stretch there. We had like 6 touchdowns in 5 games at the end, something like that, something along those lines. But he's been really good, and he reminds me of Hunter Renfrow from 2 years ago, where you're just like, how the fuck is this guy doing this? Like, he's a good possession receiver, has tremendous hands. So Isaiah Hodgins, another guy to keep a lookout when you're talking about the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Wandell, I mean, he is. I've got him in a few leagues. He's probably worth a mid to late secondish. He's probably more valued as a late second round pick right now, to like his ADP wise, like where he's getting taken. So yeah, he's worth probably like a late-ish second. Oh yeah, that's Jamie's actually asking right now. Let me open up Keep Trade Cut real quick and see what they've got him at. And see if I'm
Yeah, and I
in
tend
that
to
same
agree with
range.
that. And I think that's more a product of the underwhelming Giants passing offense as a whole. So unless we see Daniel Jones take that next leap, like we saw Jalen Hurts do last year as a passer, then it's hard to kind of give him more than a second round grade, mid second round grade.
Uh, they've got Jalen Hyatt, Tank Bigsby. Yeah, so he's basically in that, in that range. James Conner, Gabe Davis. Let's see what kind of.
I'd rather have Wandell than Gabe Davis.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, he's worth like a late second, basically. Or like a late second. Who else is on that? That's it, really. I mean, for the Giants. I mean, in that outlook. But yeah, I mean, they're like just a middling of the pack kind of squad. They don't really have anything that could take them over the edge. I mean, all they've got is Saquon and Daniel Jones rushing. So yeah. What I say Saquon was worth like 107, 108, pretty much. Let's see this on for Superflex. Yeah. 103. No, that's a little bit higher. 105-ish maybe. Yeah, he's still in that range. That's still like now it's creeping up to that later first. Especially without the contract, we don't know what's happening, man. Fuck, he should have just took that shit. All right, let's go to the Commanders. Probably the worst team in the division, most likely them and the Giants. Obviously, you've got Sam Howell. Actually, just picked up Heineke, I think, in one of my leagues. Yeah, I picked up Heineke as one of my backup QBs because I mean, what if Howell doesn't play well? I mean, we've saw like Heineken can run an NFL offense, an NFL team. He wasn't that bad with the Commanders, but he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. Like he could sling it a little bit. I don't know what Sam Howell's going to do. He can run the football a little bit. He can slightly sling it a little bit. I mean, he looked decent, but I don't know how good is he really going to be, and is he going to be able to hold the job, or does Taylor Heineke come in at some point, or do they just let the growing pains go with Howell? What do you think?
It's really tough to get a handle on what exactly they're looking like, but they have some interesting pieces, especially if you're talking about the wide receiver and running back position. You kind of like what they're putting together, but then you look at the quarterback and you're like, the quarterback's the whole key to the thing. He's the quarterback is the glue that holds all those pieces together. So
what am I saying? Heineke. Heineke's on Atlanta. I'm bugging. Never mind. Go ahead.
I was actually gonna say, is Heineke still there? I
He
wasn't
just
sure.
reminded me of Washington, and I picked him up, and never.
So
Brissett is the guy I was talking about. Brissett is on Washington, right?
no, Brissett's
Brissett is on.
Is he?
Yeah. Yeah, they got Brissett.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the guy there. Brissett is the backup guy there. So yeah, I kind of does Brissett step in?
To be honest, I haven't. I'll be honest. I haven't seen much of Sam Howell there, which is interesting.
No, none of us have.
But I think Brissett is a professional quarterback, and I think he would get more out of what they have than Sam Howell. Now, I could be wrong, obviously, but I've seen Brissett enough to have some confidence, especially fantasy relevant, production in terms of, Scary Terry, Jahan Dotson, Gibby, B-Rob, like those, getting the most out of those guys. I have a little more confidence in Jacoby Brissett to get the most out of those guys. So it'll be interesting to see what Sam Howell is, especially now that teams and defenses can game plan for him, right? There's some tape on him a little bit, and now teams are going to go out there and try to take away what he does best. What does he do best? I have no idea. So that certainly remains to be seen, but it'll be interesting. Obviously, McLaurin's going to be on your roster. Dotson's going to be on your roster. Gibby's going to be on your roster. B-Rob's going to be on your roster. It'll just be interesting to see what Sam Howell turns that into.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Bieniemy, right? Went over from KC.
That's interesting.
So, I love Gibby as it is, and this makes me kind of like it even more. We saw what McKinnon was able to do, and the targets and stuff that he was able to get. But then you've got B-Rob, who is an okay running back. I mean, I have Gibby ranked ahead of B-Rob. I just like Gibby more. I mean, B-Rob is okay. He's like a low end RB2. I mean, he just needs like a ton of volume to be like decent, but I don't love him. And then of course you got the wide receivers, right? Scary Terry always doing his thing, can never really get to that wide receiver one fantasy wise status.
But he has the talent to do it.
And then you've got Dotson, who's kind of in the same boat, like possibility to kind of be in that low end tier wide receiver one range, but just I don't think he's ever gonna get there, especially with Scary Terry, there as well. So that's going to be a little bit rough. Gibby, probably same, worth like a mid to late second round pick. B-Rob, same exact range. Scary Terry, early second. Dotson, and late first, early second. I think. What do you think?
Yeah, you know what's crazy about that too, as I'm thinking about it? Terry McLaurin had an opportunity to get out of there and signed an extension not that long ago. I think it was a year ago he signed the extension, which I was like, that was that because there was a lot of talk about him potentially getting traded, if you remember, or him leaving via free agency. And he ended up signing the extension, which I think kind of made people, raise an eyebrow a little bit like, okay, I mean, if you want to stay there with that uncertain quarterback situation. But yeah, those guys are, like I said, rosterable, but what are they truly worth? I think you're probably spot on with Terry being late first, early second. Same thing with Dotson. Obviously, Dotson's a second-year guy, so he's potentially a little more valuable. And then you got the running backs where, I mean, Gibby, yeah, I would give up a second-round pick for Gibby or B-Rob. Like, I feel like they could be valuable with enough volume. So And obviously, since they have a young, inexperienced quarterback in Sam Howell, you'd think they'd want to rely on those two running backs to kind of keep them in games, or I guess keep them competitive. So yeah, those are the four guys you want. They're probably going to finish last in this division, but hey, listen, crazier things have happened where they'll fight some people, because if you remember last year, the Commanders gave the Eagles their first loss. So they're going to fight people, and the Bieniemy angle of it is pretty interesting. So I'll be interested to see how he utilizes those guys. Obviously, coming over from Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Jarrett Patterson and then Chris Rodriguez, which is a good guy to just stash on your taxis for now, just in case an injury happens. I mean, I think if Brian Robinson was to go down, Gibson might keep his same role, and then like Chris Robinson might come in to take B-Rob's role. So that would be just interesting there. I mean, there's no other wide receiver. I mean, you've got what's his name, Curtis Samuel there as well. Does that get a little interesting with Bieniemy? I mean, they did try and get him the ball, last year, early at least in the year, he was getting the ball right. And does Bieniemy use some of that, pre-snap shit that you saw KC use a little bit as well, just to try and get him the ball? But I don't have high hopes for Curtis Samuel.
He got off to like an insane start last year for the first like 2 or 3 weeks, and people were like losing their mind, and then that all came crashing.
Well, he was getting touches. I mean, none of us believed it or wanted to believe it. We were all like, "What the fuck is happening here?" Like, okay, now we can't deny it. It just keeps happening over and over again. He's getting the ball. So yeah, that was rough. Brissett better for real football than fantasy. Yeah, no, I agree. He was never a great fantasy dude, but I mean, he is a quarterback, so he made Cooper Kupp a top 10 guy. Yeah,
he's a capable quarterback. Like, he's a professional quarterback that will get his playmakers the ball. He's not great per se, but I think I feel a little better about the skill position guys for the Commanders with Brissett there than I do with Sam Howell.
Did Washington get a tight end? No, I don't believe so. They should have. They probably should have. There was a lot of talks of them getting a tight end.
Is Logan
I think they're
Thomas
still rolling. They're still rolling with Logan Thomas.
Oh my god.
They've got John Bates, Cole Turner. I mean, yeah. About Gibson for a 24th third. Oh, that's not fair.
That's pretty good. That'll work.
I'll take Gibby all day. Yeah, Jamie said no tight end. Still rolling with Logan Thomas. Yep. Dynamic Brown is there. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't really. I didn't really even want to be worth mentioning his name because he's not going to do.
He's not on the radar. No,
he's a small guy. Even in deeper leagues, like he's not on the radar. I mean, I guess if an injury happened, maybe he becomes interesting, but
an injury or two.
Probably. Yeah, it would take. Yeah. Never a fan of Dynamic Brown. You can drop him if you got him on your squad. Just save yourself the roster spot for now. I think that's pretty much it about that. Sam Howell. I mean, I still can't. I can't fathom to pull myself to draft him in an actual draft. Even in Superflex, like late. I don't know. All right. Yeah, most likely the Commanders will be, at the bottom of that division. If not, maybe above the Giants. I mean, we shall see. But let's hit up the Cowgirls, the Cowboys, them boys. And you've got, Dak Prescott, who missed, some games last year with the injury. We've got CeeDee Lamb, who, went off and did his thing, over 100 catches. So interesting to see with a full season with Dak, what that can be. We haven't seen, the full season of breakout CeeDee and Dak. Zeke's obviously gone, so we got Pollard in there. nobody really else there. We got Malik Davis, obviously, and Deuce Vaughn, Ronald Jones, but he couldn't even make the Kansas City team. Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup is back and a year removed from the injury and surgery and all that. You've got Ferguson, Hendershot, and the newcomer Schoonmaker,
Your boy.
at the tight end position. My boy, little sleeper there, Spoonmaker. I don't know, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, I mean Dallas typically some of the best offenses in the league for the past few years with Dak at the helm. What are we feeling about Dallas?
I think Dallas has a really high ceiling, but can they stay out of their own way? Right? It always feels like something gets in their way of actually reaching what we all feel is the potential of their really good roster. Their defense has definitely taken a step forward over the last couple of seasons, and actually been a critical part of their success. And I think the biggest thing for the Dallas Cowboys going into this particular season is, can Dak control the turnovers? Right, that was what pretty much doomed them down the stretch last year, and obviously into the playoffs, was the turnovers. So it's one of those things where Dak's a really good quarterback. Let's not get it twisted. He's a really good quarterback, but can he match up with Jalen Hurts at this point? Can he match up with any of the quarterbacks that we talk about from the AFC, those 4 to 5 guys? I'm not sure, but in a watered down NFC where your only really competition is the Eagles, you could throw San Francisco in there as the only teams that you could look at and say are definitively better than Dallas. There's a path there, but obviously one of those teams is in their division, which is the Eagles. So you love their upside. They constantly have one of the top offenses, as you talked about. So they're going to produce offensively. So you're going to want Tony Pollard. You're going to want CeeDee Lamb. You're going to want Brandon Cooks, because I think Brandon Cooks will produce. And I think the fact that Patrick, what up, man?
And that other guy.
And the
Listen,
other guy.
Patrick.
I appreciate it when I'm looked at as not the other guy, which is okay. I've accepted my role. But yeah, it'll be I think Brandon Cooks is going to have another productive season. He's produced pretty much everywhere he's went. But I think the fact that he's going to produce for the Dallas Cowboys is going to be a bigger deal than it would be in Houston or New Orleans or New England. Like, I think it'll be a bigger deal. His numbers will feel more impactful because they're going to be coming from Dak Prescott on the Cowboys. So he'll probably give you 70 catches, 1,000 yards. The touchdowns, he's never been a crazy touchdown guy, but he'll give you maybe 5 touchdowns, and he'll be safely in that wide receiver 2, mid-tier wide receiver 2, opposite CeeDee Lamb. I think Michael Gallup will siphon off some of his upside, but I still think Brandon Cooks is still a really good wide receiver.
I think he is too, but I don't know. He maybe a back end wide receiver 2, like high end wide receiver 3 more. I don't know.
He has the explosiveness to make the most of those grabs,
No, I agree. I don't know if how much better Gallup feels and looks this year, coming, a year removed from the injury, and if CeeDee Lamb just doesn't go absolutely fucking bonkers, so I'm a little more, on the safer end of the Brandon Cook side. I mean, I like him, and you can get him for an absolute steal, like especially in startups. He's going, he's going really late. But I would just, slightly temper the expectations. Give me, he's got to be like my wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 kind of deal. So I think I sold Cooks for Gibson recently. Yeah, I do that. I'd do that if I need a running back. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Brandon Cooks, I mean, what is he worth? A third? He's not worth a second. There's no way somebody's really giving up a second for him unless in season he's bowling. Then somebody will give up a second at that point. And I keep bringing up in season because especially in the last couple streams that we've had because people are so pressed to like get their starting lineup already and all that. I mean, how many times do we start a season that starting line? Tell me how many times your starting lineup looks the same from the start of the season to the end, the last game of the season.
Oh no, I check that shit
Bro,
every year, and there's like 4 guys that make it through.
there's so many opportunities for trades to happen and things to happen, during the
Waiver wire
season. So we need
pickups,
to
yeah.
stop like trying to set our lineup right now today and worried about, oh, I need a starting running back or oh my depth is not as good. Like we have so much time. So it's rough, man. Can't carry two fantasy that can't carry two fantasy relevant wide receivers. Mullen on land, but I don't want any part of if in any of the others. Yeah, I mean, if you say two wide receiver fantasy ones, maybe. I just think he'll spread it around a little bit more to the other guys, but CD's kind of going to be, that
And
main dude.
also don't
But
forget they're gonna have to fill that void at the tight end position. So those targets are gonna get spread around somewhere. Dalton Schultz was a really productive tight end for them. So I think Brandon Cook, but it'll like I said, it'll be interesting to see. I can understand what Patrick's saying a little bit, just in terms of what is it going to look like for Gallup and Cooks? Like who's going to be that second guy? And
that's what I'm saying.
I can envision a world where 1 week it's Cooks, 1 week it's Gallup, 2 weeks it's Cooks, 2 weeks it's Gallup. So I understand that way of thinking, and I can't be mad at it. But I think there's enough to go around where those guys have some flex appeal on a given week, considering they have a high powered offense.
Definitely. Derek, what up, Derek?
Derek, what it do?
But yeah, especially if you're a contending team and you just need to fill like another a last flex spot or a bench guy that you can fill in on weeks or injuries, like Brandon Cooks is one of those perfect guys. But let's talk about Dak for a minute as far as his his dynasty value, where he's been going. He's still going on that 1-2 turn mid second to even late second. I've seen him go. Some people are starting to take some of these rookie QBs ahead of Dak, obviously, with the age and everything. But Dak is only, 29, so he'll be, 30 going into the season. He's still got probably a good at 5-6 years ish.
But
or
there's
so.
so really quick on Dak. There's something interesting. I don't remember what I was listening to. I don't know if it was on the radio or NFL Live, but the Cowboys in the next season or so are going to have to make a decision on Dak, because I think his extension or his guaranteed money is up, I think either at the end of this year or next year. So the extension talks are going to have to kind of start now. You know what I mean? So it's going to be really interesting to see if the Cowboys in Dak's age 30 potentially season will still be the guy for the Cowboys, or do they draft a younger guy and try and turn the page? So, because obviously the extension for Dak as a 30-year-old quarterback, as productive as we know he can be, he's going to command top dollar still. So do the Cowboys want to reset the clock on that quarterback position? It'll be interesting to see. So that's just something to keep in mind in terms of Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got a good enough defense, and with CD obviously, and having Dak, like you're in contention basically. So I don't know how much they want to try and go away from Dak, and they won't be bad enough to have a top pick to just draft a QB unless they take them in later rounds, of course. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna move away. I don't think they're gonna move away from Dak. I mean, how they like to operate with their guys, especially their QBs, whether it was Romo or even before that, they haven't really just shuffled QBs or shit like that. When it's their guy, it's their guy at the QB position. So I still love taking Dak as a second QB, in your super flex league if you can get that, because he's a top 10 quarterback every season. He doesn't rush the ball like crazy, and he's still a top 10 QB pretty much every season except for 2020 when he got hurt. 2018 he was QB 14, and then last year he played only 12 games, but QB 18. I mean, the intos obviously was a lot for last year, but he's still going to throw over 30 touchdowns a season. He's still going to be a top 12 guy. So
Agreed.
yeah, I'm not hating on Dak Prescott at all. I'm loving
And he
having
was,
Dak.
and Dak, to his credit, before this past season, he was never really a high turnover guy, in chunks like that, what he did last season. So
Mhm.
was that a product of him trying to make up for something? Was that a product of him trying to force it? Was that, so there's a lot of variables that go into, why he was like that. His track record states that he's not a high turnover guy. So I
Yeah.
think I think you tend to bank on that a little bit more and say, okay, yeah, if he could get to, like you said, 32 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, somewhere in that 10 range, then you're good with that. You know what I mean? Especially if he's throwing over 30 touchdowns. Not giving you a ton with his legs like he did maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but still a high volume guy. He's going to give you 4,500 yards, 4,700 yards. He's a big volume guy in the passing game.
Yeah. Um. Would you rather have Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones?
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, if you've got Daniel Jones, I'd look to probably try and tier up to a Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Dak Prescott. Now,
If that's
I
possible.
will say this, yes, I stand by what I said, but Daniel Jones is, I don't know, but those couple of 50-point games he had at the end of last season in the playoffs, Daniel Jones, in the fantasy playoffs,
Hmm.
piqued my interest a little bit. Now, I think you'll win consistently more if you had Dak Prescott than if you had Daniel Jones, and that's the reason why I would say Dak Prescott you know. But Daniel Jones, I don't know, man. He showed me something down the stretch last year, which makes you kind of, you see some upside where if he starts taking off and he's rushing for 150 yards, he's throwing for another 150, and he's got 3 combined or 4 combined touchdowns. He can
Mhm.
he can vault you in a given week if he does that. And he did that a couple of times last year.
Yep.
But it's still Dak Prescott. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, I mean, CD last year, 156 targets, 107 for 1359 and 9 tutties. Wide receiver 5.
And that's with Dak missing what, 4 or 5 games?
That's with Dak missing 5 games. And then he got hurt, so I guess you can say 6-ish. Uh, but yeah, I mean, a full season now with Dak. I mean, are we pushing 1,500, 1,600 yards possibly 115, 120 like I don't know. Is that a like? Do you think CD has a next year in him?
Yeah, I do. And I think, and I said this in a previous episode where, outside of the Justin Jeffersons and the Jamar Chases, usually wide receivers don't hit their stride, their full maturity potential until about that third or fourth year. You know what I mean? So, like I said, outside of those freaks of nature that we talked about, these wide receivers usually takes them a little longer to develop because they're reading coverages, they're getting on the same page with their quarterback, they're developing that rapport, you know expanding their route tree from college depending on what college they went to. So
Mhm.
I think CD does have another gear, and he could be a wide receiver one candidate, overall wide receiver one candidate in my estimation. So
Mhm.
especially if Dak plays a full season.
Yeah, CD. I mean, and that's why, like for me, I have to have him. Like he's my wide receiver. My dynasty wide receiver 3. Like he's right after JJ Chase and then it's CD. And you could argue that those 3 guys are in one tier themselves, at least in
Okay.
my eyes. And I
Here we
like to
go.
have AJ one tier lower, but
I got another
yeah,
name for you.
go ahead.
Would you rather have CeeDee Lamb or Garrett Wilson?
That's a good one. I'll take CD Lamb just attached to the QB. He's doing it already. Give me CD. I have him ranked higher. It's
Okay.
not, it's relatively close, but yeah, I'm taking CD.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking CD for sure. I think Schoonmaker will be the third guy for us in the passing game. I like him. I think he's going very underrated right now. It might be one of those things where we see it, more in the second half of the season, or maybe even next season. They might mix in kind of all three of these guys, right? Ferguson, Hendershot.
Mm-hmm.
They might be mixing in a few of them. I don't think it's just going to be one guy, especially early on. But I think over the course of the season, maybe Schoonmaker finds himself to be that guy. But I don't think it happens right away. But I do like him. I do think he's a very underrated dude. And in that offense, like the tight end could get some really
There's
good
some
work,
upside. Yeah.
as we saw, with what's his name, and he's not and with Schultz, and
Schultz.
he's not even the greatest athlete either, Schultz. So Tolbert, I did hear that as well, Jamie, but I'm done with Tolbert right
After
now.
1 year?
I'll buy back in if he does become something. I mean, you can pick him up off the fucking waivers right now. Like, I don't even think
That's
anybody
true.
even has him on there unless somebody's got him on a taxi. But I was a little fan of Tolbert last year, especially the situation he was going into. Michael Gallup not being there, like we had some high hopes, and he
There
wound up like
was,
not even being
yeah.
able to get on the field. Like he's just, there it is. Derek says that he's trash. Maybe throw that trash can. He's trash. I'll just, yeah, I'm out. Like I said, I'll buy back in. If anything, but it's not even. It
That's
like it
such
wasn't
a
a situation like it wasn't in a situation like I refer to as in like a Sky Moore situation where just coming from that smaller school, learning the position that they need him to play for the Chiefs, learning all, and like it wasn't like that for Tolbert. Herbert just wasn't good. Like,
or maybe you just like Sky Moore more than you like Tolbert. Like
yeah, I
it
do
could
like
be
Sky.
that.
Everybody
Well,
should like Sky
you
Moore
know
more
what I
than
mean. I'm
Tolbert.
just talking about like you have your own
Tolbert's trash.
personal bias. Now, I'm not saying he's
Nah.
not trash. So you could look at it. You could look at it from two ways, right? You could look at it as the situation that I brought up, where wide receivers, it takes a long time to develop. It, there's a lot that goes into it. Or you could look at it from your perspective and have what you brought up, where last year they didn't have anybody opposite CD Lamb that stepped in and you would imagine there was an opportunity for him to, step up. And if they really felt high on Tolbert, they wouldn't have brought in Brandon Cooks. They wouldn't, and now essentially he's fourth on the depth chart at best
At
in the
best,
wide
yeah.
receiver room. So, you could look at it from that perspective, and it'll be tough for him to really make an impact. So I guess
And they were still even looking to bring in, another guy like a D Hop or something like that,
they were
right?
even talking about OBJ. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think Turpin is another guy that's still there as well, but more of a gadget kind of dude, not really anybody that you would want. And yeah, so Schoonmaker I like as a deep dart throw at the tight end position. Michael Gallup, I don't know. I don't have any shares of Michael Gallup. I don't know if I'd really want to go out and actively buy him either. Like I'm basically just staying away from anybody other than CD. And then there's, the running back position, right? Tony Pollard. They don't do anything to address running back position really in the draft. I mean, they do get Deuce Vaughn. I mean, but how many touches is Deuce Vaughn going to get? I think he'll have his role, but do they bring somebody else back in, right? Does Zeke come back, right? Do they sign Fournette or something like that? I don't know if they still are going to just run with Pollard. I don't know. Are they going to just run with Pollard? Is Pollard going to be the fucking guy there right now? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Pollard's the guy per se, but I think they're gonna keep him in the role that he was in. And I was talking with somebody about this, And they were like, "Oh yeah, now Tony Pollard's the man." I said, "Bruh, Tony Pollard is best in the role that we saw him in. Obviously last year he popped off, but even the year before that, like 15 touches a game, let him be explosive, 17 on the high end, let him be explosive, but you need a between the tackles guy because you don't want him taking that punishment over a 17 game season. Like he can't withstand that. And even with the increased role he had this past season, we saw what the end result was. It was a nasty injury. I don't know if that was a result of all the workload, but there is an increased risk of that kind of breakdown when you have that much more of a workload at that position. So I think it will behoove them to get somebody like Lenny or bring back Zeke at a cheaper price to absorb some of those between the tackle carries, those goal line carries, and let Pollard be that explosive, 15 to 17 touches a game guy.
Yeah. Gallup is done. You want Lamb, Cook, and Schoonmaker. Trust me, yeah. Eric said he can't defend Tolbert. Deuce Vaughn, yeah. I mean, he'll have a little gadget role. It'll be a couple touches a game. I heard Hunt going to go in. Hunt, yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's possible.
That'd be a nice pickup for them. Dallas, Kareem Hunt on Dallas. That'd be a nice pickup for them.
That'd be possible. Chris B, what up?
Hey.
But yeah, I mean, Tony Pollard, I guess, I mean, at the moment, I mean, he's still valued so high. He's just a big sell just on pure value, like what you can get for a guy like Tony Pollard, how people actually feel about him in the community. So, I mean, I like Tony Pollard, and last season, was I not calling Tony Pollard season last season, bro? I was calling Tony Pollard season, baby.
Pollard season.
Yeah. And it happened, but I wound up trading him because I just didn't feel like he was going to be the future. And look now what I could have got from him. But anyways, yeah, I'm still Tony Pollard's a weird one. Like he has to move up, I guess, a little bit in dynasty rankings because they don't have anybody else there. But at the same time, it's like all right, it's just the 1 year thing. Do they give him another franchise tag after this year? Do they actually give him a contract after this year? Like, I don't know. They still got to pay CD, right?
Yep. CD's coming up. Obviously, they're gonna give CD the 5th year option.
Yeah, I think they already did that. If I'm not mistaken, but do they? Yeah, they got to give him money. I mean, the defense. I don't know who else they got to pay on defense. Micah, they're going to wind up having to pay sooner or later, right?
There you go. Trayvon Diggs, potentially.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, give me some Pollard trades real quick. Pollard or what?
Pollard or Charbonnet.
Pollard or Charbonnet. I'll take. Well, I mean, not straight up, obviously, but I'll take Charbonnet and some picks maybe.
Okay, Pollard or who's the guy in Tampa?
Second.
Fuck.
What, Charbonnet at a like a second, mid-second, early second?
Yeah. Who's the guy in Tampa? Fuck, I forgot his name already. Jesus.
Who, Rashard White?
Yeah.
No, I'm not taking Rashard White.
Okay.
I'll take Tony.
Not
even as a trade down, I wouldn't take Rashard White.
Pollard or the combination of B-Rob and Gibby?
No, I don't want a combination. I'll take Gibby plus. Give me Gibby and would Gibby in a first? Can I get a Gibby in a late first for Pollard or early second maybe?
Yeah,
kind of in that range. I'm looking at.
Pollard or Oh, there's so many weird like running back situations. Because I do like Pollard a lot, but Pollard or DeAndre Swift.
Pollard. I'm not fucking with Swift. Swift is interesting because he goes to the Eagles, and obviously they're a great spot. We saw what Miles Sanders did, but I don't think they're asking Swift to do what Miles Sanders did.
I would
I
agree.
think that's still Penny's role and job right now. And
Yeah, but Penny's
I mean,
gonna get hurt. We kind of know
no,
that. That's
no,
like clockwork.
I know, but the problem is Swift's skill set as the pass catching back. How does that translate to the Eagles and what they do? They're not dumping it off to the running back a whole lot, or having the running back out, out the backfield catching many passes. So that is like I don't know, like I don't love Swift. I don't love. I just don't know what's going to happen over there. I
I
don't
would agree.
know if it's going to be a large enough role or they're going to, unless
All right.
injury happens, of course.
Here we go.
Oh,
Tony Pollard or my guy Aaron Jones.
Oh, Tony Pollard. That's not even close. I'm not
Don't be
tearing
disrespectful.
down to Aaron Jones at all. Derek said, I like Deuce Morning. Reminds me of like a Sproles. Yeah. Only problem is that Sproles is good only if used perfectly in an offense. And are the Cowboys going to be able to use Vaughn like a Sproles was used? Like, that's going to be tough to do. He's only there because Pops is the coach. Yeah, we saw that. It's a possibility, but the problem with Sproles is how many of those guys actually get that perfect situation where they're actually valuable as a fantasy option. It's slim to none. Like other than Darren Sproles, like how many other guys really are there that wound up being like that?
Also remember Darren Sproles was a return man as well. That's what gave him some value.
What keeps him on the squad as well. Yeah, that's true too. Is Deuce Vaughn a return guy? I don't think so. Derek said he looks really good out there. Yeah, he could, but everybody looks good when it's not
when there's
when
nobody
not in the game
trying to take your head off. Yeah,
and the defense is not trying to destroy this little 5-5 guy. But yeah, the problem is just using him like in the perfect manner and him actually getting enough touches to be fantasy relevant. That's the biggest part, man.
I got a good one for you. Pollard or Josh Jacobs?
Seeing the kid in action made me a believer. Yeah, I mean, once you see it, Swift all day. Yeah, I'm not. I'm sorry. What'd you say, Hammer? What is it?
Pollard or Josh Jacobs?
Pollard or Josh Jacobs?
Similar positions, not similar contract. What their contract situation is? They're both on the tag. Obviously, we know Jacobs isn't going to repeat what he did last year, but how valuable is he truly going to be?
Give me.
He's a volume guy.
Damn, that's a tough one, man. Give me Jacobs. I think, especially for the next few years, I think I'm more comfortable with Jacobs still having that kind of workhorse-ish kind of role, or at least getting the majority of the work. Where I don't know what's going to happen with Pollard after this. Now, if we're just talking about particularly this year, I think it's even closer because you've got just the offense that Pollard's in. I mean, there's a lot of touchdowns that Zeke had that somebody's going to have to get. Whether that's Pollard or somebody else. So, yeah. What would you add to Pollard to get JSN? Oh, you got to add a lot to Pollard to get JSN. For me,
probably going to have to be somewhere in that 105, 106 range.
I mean, if we're just talking about one pick, JSN is probably worth like 2 firsts, just in general. Where he is, like with those other guys, like Olave and London, he's right in that area without even playing it down. He's being ranked, with those particular guys. Some people have them higher, some people have them lower. Um, Especially for the long term aspect of it. And again, Pollard's a guy that's short term. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to say at the least one first, but it'd have to be like an early first. You know, I would say that at the least. At the least, I would need. But I prefer probably two firsts in Pollard and or a player, a first Pollard and another player that kind of gets me over the edge. Like it's got to be something really good for me to do that. Um, but yeah, I'm not giving up. I wouldn't be giving up JSN either way. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have. I would add, like I said, I would add probably a first somewhere. Now, the problem with trading Tony Pollard is he's on the franchise tag. We have no idea what his situation is going to look like after this year, and he's coming off a major injury. So Tony Pollard's while his value, we know what his value is as a player, fantasy wise, and the certainty that you get, or the long term security you're getting with Tony Pollard, you just don't know what his situation is going to be. And we've seen running backs fall off a cliff where they're good for 1 or 2 years, and then that's just the end of them. We never hear from them again. I'm not saying that's going to be Tony Pollard, but the potential is there at that position. You know what I mean? So it's probably going to take a lot, like you said, a high first or two first. Like, where are those first round picks? If you're giving up 2 first round picks, are they 2 mid first, 2 front end first, a 105, a 106? Are you giving up Pollard? What is it going to have to be? Pollard in a 103, Pollard in a 104?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, if the drafts are still going, I mean, otherwise, if it's a next year first, I mean, it's got to be from a shitty team. I'm not getting like if I had Pollard and I wanted to get to JSN, you definitely probably have to add like 2 first. I don't know if anybody's giving them up that easy. I got 0 shares of the Raiders offense. Yeah, I have 0 shares of the Raiders offense as well. I don't have any of them. Malik Davis will get some TDs. Maybe they just feel so comfortable with Malik Davis. I mean, I don't know. He was an undrafted guy, but is clearly like the number 2 guy that's there. So I do like Malik. I don't. We just don't know what's really going to happen. What they're really going to do with that offense. As far as running the football. Now, again, we still have time, right? We still have time for them to take one of these veteran guys, which I would not be surprised that they do. Just to, like you said, take the brunt of some of that work between the tackles, and keep Pollard in the role that he was in. He's still going to get a ton of touches. Like, you don't need to worry. But, I mean, he finished RB 7 last year. Was that the ceiling? Is he going to get much more than that? Do they want to give him much more than that? Like, that's the other question, right?
Yep.
So he can definitely still finish top 10, without a doubt, but still a little bit of question.
Uncertainty. Yeah.
Yeah, Malik Davis is a guy that I love to stash, if you can, because he is right now the number 2. I mean, you got Ronald Jones, but I mean, he couldn't even make KC's roster, and then Juice Vaughn, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much it for Dallas. You got anything else on Dallas?
Nah, man.
Malik has hard to actually like him, but he is slow and has 0 burst. Yeah, I mean, well, he doesn't need to. I mean, Zeke don't got burst, and Zeke is slow as fuck now. But they still, were able to, pound, in between the tackles and, soften up the defense a little bit so that a guy like Pollard, who's more explosive and can, really burst through holes, it really benefited them. They were able to do what they wanted to do, with Pollard. So I think that's a good game plan. Did they wind up sticking to that? Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they do wind up re-signing Zeke or somebody else. Yeah, I don't agree, Patrick. I don't think Ronald Jones is beating out Malik Davis. I don't think Ronald Jones is really that good. He's just unable to hold a starting position when he's had so many chances to, with great opportunities. He was the lead back on the Bucks, and he lost that role to Fournette. Like, Arians gave him the opportunity to keep that role and said Ronald Jones is the guy, until otherwise, and he wound up losing that job. Then he goes to the Chiefs. You've got a hurt CEH. He can't even like make the team. And then you've got, the seventh round pick Pacheco that winds up, doing his thing and stays on the team. So, he's had plenty of opportunities, and I just don't think he's that good at this point in time. Ronald Jones is just trash. What do you think, Hammer?
Yeah, I agree. And it was really interesting last year where he had every opportunity, like you said, with a really good Kansas City offense. And with CEH kind of just falling off the face of the earth, you would think that Ronald Jones was going to have an impact, and he just had zero. And then Pacheco comes in and just steals the show. So if you couldn't cash in that opportunity, obviously you talked about the opportunity that he had with the Bucks and lost it.
Yeah.
The book is kind of out on you after you've basically fumbled two opportunities. So what else is there left for you to prove other than you can't beat out the guys that are there? Like, the book is out on you at this point. So I had a little bit in Ronald Jones last year going to Kansas City and figuring, hey, in a high power McKinnon, right? Jerick McKinnon turned out to be infinitely better than Ronald Jones. So, if guys are beating Ronald Jones out left and right, he's probably not going to have very much of a leash left.
Mm-hmm. Song, what up? What up, brother? What do you think about Vaughn? Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, I just think he's kind of a gadget guy. He'll get, some limited touches, and he's not going to be crazy valuable for fantasy unless, like Derek says, unless he gets that kind of like Derek Sproles kind of role, Darren Sproles kind of role where he's, catching the ball out of the backfield a ton. That's the only way. The problem is, like, what is the role that they're going to have in mind for this guy? Is it going to be a Darren Sproles like kind of deal where he's catching a ton of balls, or is it, is he just going to get, a few touches a game? I mean, I don't know. He is a very much smaller guy, so it's more of like an outlier situation. It's not, the percentage that these guys are actually going to be fantasy value are not very good. The actual percentage they're going to be of any value in fantasy is not going to be very good, but there is of course that possibility. So I'm okay with missing out on Vaughn, taking a chance on somebody else, and you could always buy back into him. I mean, even Darren Sproles. I mean, how much would he cost to go out and buy? I mean, he's not going to cost you a ton, but yeah, that's kind of what I feel about Vaughn there. Appreciate you, Derek. Everybody, hit that like. If you have not, smash that subscribe. If you're hanging out, chilling with the crew here. Zeke was 230. Yeah, Zeke was a big boy. Ronald Jones and Davis are both trash. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Malik Davis is great by any means or anything like that. I just think that the situation that he's in and the opportunity that he has for this particular season, makes him particularly valuable for at least this season. If injuries happen and shit like that. So Marty was good. I don't think Jones is the guy either. What I'm saying is Malik and Vaughn are not the guy at all. No, I mean, we're not expecting them to be the guys, but when we're talking about fantasy and especially Dynasty, of course, but even for typical regular redraft fantasy, having the backup running backs of particular good backfields or good teams, good
Very valuable.
offenses
Yeah.
are valuable, because if an injury happens, whether we think this guy, Malik Davis or Deuce Vaughn, is good at all, it doesn't matter, because of the situation and opportunity that arises. They're going to be thrust into that role, so, or into a larger role that will make them fantasy relevant. So, that's all that we're looking at there. We're not looking at them to take over the backfield. Let me be clear on that.
And I think especially with this particular backfield, there's going to be opportunities for other guys to contribute, because I don't think, especially as I said, with uh Tony Pollard coming off the injury and the void left by Zeke, there's going to be touches and there's going to be touchdowns to make up. So at least a combination of two or three of these guys are going to have to make up some of that production. Tony Pollard with another running back, or another two guys to make up some of that production. So it'll be interesting to see who they go to in what situation. But they're very valuable, as you said, because they're going to get some opportunity. And say if Tony Pollard gets hurt again, then these guys are presented with even more of an opportunity to go out there and get some production. So they're going to be extremely valuable to have. Now, I don't think one guy is going to dominate the backfield. I don't think that's happening. This isn't Zeke in 2016, but there's going to be some value to go around.
If anybody was going to dominate, obviously it'd be Pollard, because he's kind of the only guy there. But I mean, yeah, Dave, Crispy says Cowboys should have drafted McBride. Yeah, but they didn't. I mean, the Vikings did. And you know what? The draft itself, right? It was just a very weird, right? That all the running backs that we thought were going to go early fell, right? Now, whether that has to do with some of their talent or not, I mean, if you didn't watch the show the other night, with when it had Matt Waldman on, we were talking about Zach Evans, who was a guy that probably fell down draft boards because of the perceived notion, that he wasn't mature enough and that he had off the field issues. So, some of these teams don't wound up scouting certain players. They just take them off of their boards if they feel there's some kind of off the field issue that doesn't mesh with them, or whatever the case is, instead of actually like investigating and seeing what actually happened or what the situation was. Because those talks were all, especially with Zach Evans, those talks were all about, in high school. So he had, I forgot what it was. He had like some family that died, and he was on the recruiting process all by himself. He had to figure all this shit out. And he wound up not wanting to give up his cell phone the night before the championship game, which was like a rule that they had in place at the school. But he was in the middle of going through the recruiting process and all this kind of thing. So there was just a lot that went into it. And then, of course, we saw Charbonnet get picked right in the early in the second round, the Seahawks, right? Could that have been a guy the Cowboys were targeting or would have drafted if the Seahawks didn't do that? So, there's some guys that could have went, to different teams if certain other things, didn't happen. But yeah, I mean, Gibbs went early, right? Gibbs went, pick what, 12, 13, whatever it was there. What if he didn't go? What if he went to the back end of the first round and the Cowboys were on the clock there at 25 or whatever it was pick that they had? And Gibbs was on the clock. Would they have passed up on Gibbs? So, a lot happened. And we'll see how they wound up addressing it, if they address anything else in the backfield, or do they just pass the ball more this year? I mean, I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see how that whole situation plays out. How much are they going to give Tony Pollard the ball? How much are they going to mix other guys in? Are they going to bring in a veteran kind of between the tackle guy? There's a lot of variables.
Wanted us to get Izzy. Yeah, Izzy would have been nice. I mean, any of those guys really, any of the running backs would have been nice. And then don't forget, we saw Sean Tucker go undrafted because of the heart issue, right? There were some top running backs that fell, for reasons, and it just changed a lot of things that we thought. We thought a lot of these running backs were going to go earlier, and they wound up not. So I don't know why the Vikes would draft McBride. We need a pass catching back. Well, I think, again, most teams now are looking into that, split backfield kind of role. You don't need a guy, that has to do it all. And there's not many guys that can do it all. Now, McBride is a guy that can catch if he's asked to. He's not a pass catching back. for say, but he's okay. Like if he needed to get it done, he can. But again, most likely he's not going to be the 3 down guy anyway. Why they draft McBride? I mean, you've got Madison who can catch the ball, right? He has taken workload before. Can he do that over the course of the season? I don't know. Apparently they had McBride ranked as a starting, a possible starting running back, and being that he fell, they were kind of in love with that. So we'll see what happens with McBride, especially in the situation now where we're apparently, releasing Dalvin Cook on June 1st. So we'll see what happens there. Uh, If we bring someone else in, or is it going to be Madison McBride and Ty Chandler? Because don't forget we got him as well. So I don't know. It's interesting. Some people really like McBride, some people don't. He was very productive in college, but excuse me. Safe to say Dallas is definitely going to make a move to solidify that backfield. My money's on Hunt. We'll bring Zeke back in, and Cook would be a fantasy. Yeah, yeah, that too. That too. Dalvin Cook, we've seen. I mean, Miami, Buffalo. There's been a couple different teams that have been linked. We'll see where he winds up going. Tampa could be another option too. So, so we shall see. And then, of course, there is the Eagles losing in the Super Bowl. Spears, Todd Gurley 2.0 ain't gonna hold up long term. Yeah, I mean that's the thing with Spears is that it can happen at any point in time. His knee could just give out, and he's not nearly as good as Todd Gurley was. So, but as far as like the injury itself and all those signs, yeah, it points to to that kind of thing where he's not going to last. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Hammer, let's talk about Philly.
Man, they got pretty much all the components that you want in a really good offense. You got the quarterback. You got two fucking fantastic young-ish wide receivers. I know AJ Brown's getting a little bit up there in terms of mileage-wise. I know he's not super old, but you got two really good wide receivers. You got a good tight end. You got a stable of running backs that I don't trust not a single one of them at this point. But there is some value to some of those guys. Obviously, Swift, your boy Penny. So they still got Boston Scott. They still got Kenneth Gainwell. That's a four-headed monster in that backfield that I want no part of. I'll be honest with you. So it's really interesting, but obviously the four big guys there, Jalen Hurts is the top dog, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert is a really good tight end. So if you're in tight end premium, he could be extremely valuable. And I think he could be a really good value because I think he gets overlooked a lot when you talk about the tight end position, especially if you're in a tight end premium. I think he's probably one of the best values in terms of where you can get him versus what you're going to get production wise. He's probably somewhere in that tight end 5, tight end 6 overall. I think we had him like tight end 5 or 6 in our rankings because he's on a really good offense and he's a really good tight end. So
Yeah, I mean he's got to stay healthy though too. Is the other
that's true.
is
That's
the
true.
is the other issue. But yeah, Goddard of course. Goddard of course is up there. I mean, other than AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, there's not really anybody worth
Quez
owning as far
Watkins,
as wide
no.
receivers. I mean, Watkins. I mean, they signed what's his name, Zacchaeus.
No, I'm
Uh,
good.
maybe he turns out to be the third guy that you want there. But I mean, with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith taking up most of the
Yeah.
work there, along with Goddard or Goddard,
Mm-hmm.
however
There
you
you
say
go.
it. Those are going to be the three guys, obviously. Maybe they do line up Swift out wide or in the slot, or
Which would be interesting. Yeah.
maybe they do implement some kind of pass catching role for him, especially since like I said, it really is only AJ and Devonta, right? So and does he stay healthy? Obviously on top of that, but Gainwell, Scott, Penny. I
Also,
think.
too,
Go ahead.
don't forget Jalen Hurts is a rusher, so he's another one in that backfield. As many times as he runs the ball now, I think they want to kind of limit his rushing now. Now that he signed that big ass contract, that you kind of want to keep him out of those running situations. Because remember, down the stretch of the season, that's how Jalen Hurts got hurt against Chicago, where he took off and he got nailed. And then he was obviously, a question down the stretch, but yeah, so that's just another variable is Jalen Hurts running the football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we continue, let me just talk to Patrick real quick here. Spears is just as good. No, he's not. You got to remember a lot of Gurley's claim came to fame due to McVay. Spears is most definitely that guy. Just he can only be that guy for 2-3 years. Yeah, I would disagree totally. Just because Todd Gurley was the number 10th pick overall in the first round of the NFL draft. Spears is not that at all, and he's not nearly as good as Todd Gurley was. So I would disagree there. And the other problem is that Derrick Henry is just not human. So by the time he breaks down, Spears is going to be probably out of the NFL, done playing football.
That's a good way to put it.
But listen, I like Spears. I'm okay with Spears to a certain extent when he becomes a value at a certain point, right? If I'm getting him, third round, maybe late second round, depending on who's there, I'll take Spears. And the only way that he does anything is due to injury, of course, like most of these other guys as well. But the problem is he's just a ticking time bomb. This can happen. And even, Matt Waldman said the way that he runs, the way that he has to use his knees, I mean, I don't know. At any given point, that can backfire on you. And again, he's not nearly as good as Todd Gurley, so it doesn't make you don't want to take that. I don't want to take that chance on him. I don't think he's going to be, anything like that. Yeah, Patrick is definitely coming in hot tonight. Spears is not going to be Todd Gurley. I mean, listen, everybody's got opinions and everybody's got their, the way that they value things and look at things and scout and all that. So, but I mean, just with the draft capital in general. But yeah, he's definitely not Todd Gurley. You're a Vikings fan, so how much weight does that hold? Well, I tell you, I know a good running back when I see one. I'll tell you that.
Here we go. That train is never late.
Oh, I mean, we've had the luxury of Adrian Peterson and Dalvin Cook and Robert Smith before that, but not that Spears isn't a good running back, but he's not a Todd Gurley. I mean, let's be real.
I mean, a lot of people tend to forget because we're so far removed. Those first 3 years or 4 years of Todd Gurley were just absurd.
Oh, yeah. Insane. The amount of touchdowns that this guy scored was can you pull up his stats?
I certainly can.
He's still in sleeper? He is.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go to a Football Reference.
I mean, he gave us only 2 top 10 seasons. I mean, well, he was number 1 both of those years, but yeah, I mean, 13 touchdowns, 17, 12, and then he started falling off after that. 9. He played a full season, I think, once, all 16 games his first year, rookie year, but
No, that was his second season.
Was it?
Yeah, 2016.
Oh, is there not? Oh, they just don't go back that far? There's no 2015 in sleeper for this guy?
No, there is a 2015, but in 2015 he only played 13 games.
No, what I'm saying is in sleeper it doesn't go. Oh, sleeper came out probably in 2016, right? Was sleeper even around in 2015?
I don't know, but in 2015 he played 13 games. In 2016, ironically enough, he only had 6 touchdowns rushing. And then obviously his 2017, 2018, he had 30 touchdowns in 2 years, which is wild.
Is Madison him? I mean, listen, he has been. I wouldn't say he's him, but to be fair, he's been the most coveted uh, backup running back in fantasy football for past few years now. Whenever Cook is injured, Madison is being looked at as like a top 10 fantasy running back in that particular week. Now, can he handle that over the course of a season and be the 3 down guy? That is the real question. Or do they even want him to be that? Is the other question. Because don't forget, we've got now new coaching staff, right? This is not the coaching staff that brought in or drafted Alexander Madison.
That matters.
So, how exactly do they feel about him? Apparently, this coaching staff loves McBride, who they just brought in. We still got Ty Chandler. He's, decently well as well. So do we just have this committee backfield now, and just have this passing offense where we are looking to just outscore opponents because our defense is so bad? We're just looking to have a shootout. So does Kirk Cousins throw the ball a lot more, this year? I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So as I'm high on Madison, but I don't know how comfortable I am like saying he's going to be the RB1, guy right now. I don't know. Obviously his value is skyrocketing and he's a guy that you want to have, but I would still pump the brakes just a tiny bit because I don't know if he's going to be do they bring someone else in? Do we bring in a cheap veteran or something like that? I don't know.
I think we always tend to, especially with these running backs, like when the high priced veteran either retires or moves on to another team, we always look as the secondary guy stepping into that next role and be automatically going, yep, he's the guy now. He's going to get 25 carries a game and be, and in this NFL, we talk about this. It seems like almost weekly, right? Where we talk about this, where most outside of maybe 4 or 5 running back rooms, it's a split committee. There's some sort of timeshare. So it's not, I don't ever see Madison being him per se. Can he be valuable and productive? Sure. But who are they going to bring in, right? What does that role look like? It's going to be very, very interesting to see what the Vikings do in that position, to see what Madison's role is going to be. Are they going to keep him kind of similar to Tony Pollard, right? Where is Madison's role going to be exactly what we've seen over the past couple of years? Are they going to give him an increase?
It can't be that, to be fair, because Dalvin Cook is most likely not going to be there. So it won't be the same role,
But I'm talking about in terms of touches and, how many touches per game. Is it going to be increased? Are they going
to of course. I think he's going to see the majority of the work. He's going to probably get 15 to 18 touches a game, most likely. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, unless they bring somebody in. But I would slate him. I would slate him probably as a mid RB2 with RB1 upside, because he is going to be on an explosive, good offense. They're going to be airing it out. He's a guy that can catch the ball as well, so he's got a little bit of value there. Kirk Cousins threw a lot of shorter passes last year than he has really in the past, and I think that's the offense that we're kind of rolling to now. Is short passes. We've got the play action, and we've got the deep ball, obviously, but I think that Madison is probably more of a mid RB2, high end RB2 with that RB1 upside. So I'm all for Madison. I don't know about the future and what that's going to entail, but at least for this year, I'm definitely comfortable with rolling with Madison right now as like an RB2, RB3 ish. Spears got hurt in college. Gurley didn't. Bro, he's not Todd Gurley. I'm sorry. He's just not. Jamal Williams led the league in touchdowns last year, so I don't want to hear that shit. And Jamal Williams will never lead the league in touchdowns ever again. That was just an outlier season. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown got tackled at the 1 yard line 4 times last year. DeAndre Swift got tackled at the 1 yard line a bunch of times last year as well. You can't predict, obviously the touchdown 17. I don't expect that to happen again. There was a lot of circumstances and situations that happened that put them in that position to give Jamal Williams all that. And then don't forget that Swift got hurt, the second game of the season. And everything kind of changed from there because that first game of the season, he got like a hell of a workload. And then everything kind of changed from there. So, like Jamal Williams is not like, do you expect Jamal Williams to score 17 touchdowns on the Saints this year? No, I don't even think he gets half of what he had last year in touchdowns. To be
Yeah,
fair,
if he ends up with 6 or 7, then you got to kind of consider that 8 maybe at the top end, because he is a good goal line back and a good inside the red zone back. He has a nose for the end zone, that's for sure.
definitely. What's the most you're willing to pay for JJ in Superflex leagues? Appreciate the show, fellas. Well, listen, we play. I think that the format is going to depend a lot here. We play mostly start 10 Superflex leagues where it's pretty much impossible to buy JJ because what you have to pay costs you way
An arm
too
and a
much.
leg, yeah.
So, when you're playing in, formats where it's less starters, like a start 8 or start 9, or even, one QB league, it might be easier to acquire JJ. Um, I'm not even really willing to pay for JJ in the leagues that we play in just because of the format. It just costs way too much. But I'd have to give up QB for it to be, and that I can see because I'm one of those that likes to have QBs. So if I've got 3 solid like top 12 QBs and I can give up one of those guys and a couple first maybe to go get JJ because I can afford it, then I'll go and get it. But I wouldn't even be willing to almost attempt buying JJ at his cost. It's rough. But what do you think, Hammer?
Yeah, I totally agree. And the fact that I think that's also too why you can go into your draft with a little bit of a plan, and and this is what you talk about too in terms of drafting for value instead of position, right? Because if you're in the super flex leagues and you have 3 top 12 quarterbacks, that means somebody else doesn't. And now the value of your quarterback is so much higher to a team that would need that quarterback, that you can parlay that if you're willing to give up that quarterback, 2 first round picks, and maybe throw in a wide receiver 3-ish to go get him. And it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't hurt you per se, but you're setting yourself up because now you have that transcendent piece on your team, and you still don't have to worry about your super flex position. So that's where something, if you want to kind of play chess, not checkers, you can go into that in your draft. Now, it's not going to guarantee to work because the person who has Justin Jefferson might be like, well, screw you. He's the most valuable commodity in the entire draft and in the entire league. So it's not guaranteed, but it's something to think about where you're getting the value, you're acquiring the value. But like you said, man, if he's going for 3-4 first round picks,
The easiest way to value him is basically like 4 first round picks because he's valued just as high as those top 5, basically top 6 QBs that come off the board, right? Because he's coming off right after. He's the first position player that's coming off after those QBs. So realistically, I want to say like 4 first round picks would probably be the real worth of JJ.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying it. I'm not paying that high.
No, it's crazy.
I'm not paying that high of a price. Let me go out and buy Olave and Drake London. I'll rather have both of those guys than one JJ just because of the cost standpoint of what you got to pay. So if I don't get JJ in the startup, then I will probably never have JJ in that league, just because of what he costs. So I could see the Eagles' backfield last year with Madison as Sanders. Yeah, I can see that too, but Madison can catch though as well, and he knows protections and stuff like that. Where he can pass block. How good is McBride going to be at doing that, or a Ty Chandler, a smaller guy?
Yeah,
I don't know. So I can see it both ways. I can see Madison getting the workload, but I just don't know how realistic that is. I don't know. I don't know how they really how they view him here. Like, is it Madison's season right now, or what? And I don't like to get ahead of ourselves, especially in Dynasty, because it can cost you way too much. So
Madison season. Here we go.
it's rough. But I mean, to be fair, this is not new news, guys. We've known about the Dalvin Cook situation for months. We've been saying and talking about, Alexander Madison, even McBride, where the Vikings drafted him. I've been telling people to draft him, put him on your taxis, but throw him on your squad because of the situation that is about to occur, June 1st. Before the news came, we've been saying to, go out and get Madison or buy Madison because that situation is going to change with Dalvin Cook. And now Madison is worth, so much more than he was just a few weeks ago, all because of some news that comes out with Dalvin Cook when we already kind of knew that news. So, and that's how values change like that quickly, up and down. News, every week, a video that you see, a practice. I mean, I always allude to last year when we saw Allen Robinson make that sick catch in practice,
Sell him.
and then didn't do jack shit all fucking season.
No, it was so bad.
Yeah, Todd Gurley was putting up insane. He was. It was crazy. The touchdowns.
I said 30. He had 30 rushing touchdowns. He added in that 2-year span, bro. He added another 10 receiving touchdowns in that, so he had 40 touchdowns in 2 years. 40.
That's Eckler fucking.
Oh my god, that's LaDainian Tomlinson shit.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Well, we were talking about the Eagles. All right, we got kind of off topic there. Jalen Hurts. I'm comfortable with taking him after Joe Burrow. It's like Hurts and Herbert kind of for me. How do you feel about Jalen Hurts, and where do you have him, I guess, ranked as far as those QBs there?
You know what's crazy about the Jalen Hurts thing is how do I feel? And the fact that you brought up Justin Herbert, I think that's the perfect kind of measuring stick in terms of where would you put Herbert? Obviously, Mahomes, Josh Allen. You could even make the case for Joe Burrow. I'm still going to take Joe Burrow, but you can make the argument that Jalen Hurts should be taken before Joe Burrow. I'm still taking Joe Burrow, but I'd be hard pressed to argue. And then it's really between, like you said, Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert. Who would you rather have? God, I don't know, dude. I think it's still Justin Herbert just because he has the physical stature. But Jalen Hurts man, that guy gave you everything. He gave you the rushing and the passing. Like he turned into probably a top 5 passer in the NFL. Like along with being probably the second best rushing quarterback outside of Lamar, which is wild to think about. That package of that combination of skills, and he went out there and produced, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think I still like Justin Herbert's physical tools, but Jalen Hurts gives you the rushing upside. So if you took him ahead of Justin Herbert, I couldn't argue it.
Jamie said he took him right after Mahomes for the upside. I can see that. I mean, you can make an argument. You could obviously, of course, make the argument for it. It's just a matter of how risky do you want to get? How long do you think Jalen Hurts' career can be compared to a Herbert, or how safer do you feel? Right. I mean, in regular fantasy, yeah, I want the upside. Absolutely. The injuries are not as much of a worry, but when it comes to dynasty, sometimes that's like your team is dependent on it. So, do you have a competent third quarterback to come in if Jalen Hurts was to go down and you still be a championship contender? Are you okay with having? Or you almost have to have a third quarterback sometimes with some of these rushing QBs just to be safe, in case of injury. Whereas if you have Herbert, there or Burrow, like you feel a lot safer, for injury concerns and things like you might not have to worry about carrying such a so good third quarterback.
Yeah.
Give or take. So it's I don't mind. I can't argue with anybody that wants to take Hurts, after Patrick Mahomes. Because all those guys are kind of all interchangeable there, where you can it just depends what you want to do. Just depends what you want to do there.
Yeah, I agree.
DeAndre Swift, we briefly had spoke about. Like, I don't know if they're gonna be passing the ball more or have these running. Have him catching the ball out of the backfield a ton. I mean, I don't think there were a ton of a ton of catches to go around for those running backs to begin with.
Yeah, that backfield is a mess, dude. From a fantasy standpoint, anyway.
So I like the upside in Swift, but I'm not willing to really go out and buy him at all. Like, I'd rather go buy Penny for like a third or some shit like that, and take the chance there rather than Swift. And then Gainwell and Boston Scott. I mean, not really on the radar at
They're not
all.
on the radar until they're on the radar, and then it's like, God damn, how the fuck are these guys getting the ball?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I mean, Zacchaeus, right? We talked about him going there.
Doesn't do it.
Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, obviously two, top 12-ish dynasty wide receivers.
I think Devonta Smith in his third year has a real chance to just take a next step. I know AJ Brown is still there and they have Goddard, but man, Devonta Smith actually surprised me a little bit with his leap in production, because you would think with AJ Brown there that he would be a little more limited. And I know he was still a little boom or bust, obviously, because
It's gonna be
AJ
like
was the
that.
number one.
Yeah.
But man, his final stat line was just it surprised me. I didn't think he had that level of production. When you look at 95 grabs, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns, like that's pretty damn. That's wide receiver one.
Well, he had 100, almost 140 targets, so he had a ton of targets. Um, finishing in that range, and he is kind of like a similar player to Jordan Addison. I think he's better than Jordan Addison, but a guy that is better off as like a number two. I mean, even Matt Waldman, we were talking about as it was like a bully kind of wide receiver across from him to take that number one corner away. Give you some better looks, and things of that nature. Especially guys that aren't great getting off on press coverage, like a smaller guy in Devonta Smith and Jordan Addison, guys of that nature. So, the bully guy takes away that corner and then allows the other guy to kind of, do his thing. So, was last year
Ceiling?
a ceiling per se for
I don't think so.
Jalen Hurts in that offense, or can they actually get even better? Can AJ Brown do better? Can Devonta do better than what they did this year?
I think they can, and that's probably the scary part, right? Because did we expect them to be this productive?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think a lot of things came together for them. Now, there's a lot of film now on them, right? There's a season's worth of film on them. So, does Jalen Hurts make an adjustment? Do teams make an adjustment to him? It'll be interesting to see, but it's I think they can take even another step, and be that more explosive, especially in the NFL that we play in now, or that they play in. The offense is always going to rule, and if you could get more creative, I think the Eagles have a creative offensive play scheme, and I think they just have a stable of weapons. Like, they just have so many guys you can go to. How do you shut one guy down?
Yeah. Jamie said I ended up with Hurts, Russ, Stroud, Darnold, and Tannehill in that league. Yeah, so not bad. I mean, you've got Stroud at least there. Tannehill's going to be okay for maybe a year or so.
Well, I like obviously you got Hurts, and I think the combination of Russ and Stroud that could work out for you, because listen, if Russ turns into something, you can trade him and then have CJ Stroud. You know what I mean? So you're in a good position there with your quarterbacks.
Yeah.
because Russ isn't going anywhere. He's got that big ass contract. Sean Payton
Mhm.
just showed up. Sean Payton just showed up to Denver. So I think that's a really good situation. There's some stability there, where Russ is going to be there for a little while. And then obviously Stroud is where he is.
Patrick said, Stevie, don't pass me off based on what we know right now. Gurley, whenever the fuck he got drafted, did not put up the same stats that Spears did his senior year. Yeah, Spears also went to Tulane, and Gurley went to, I think, Georgia. Don't dismiss me like that. I mean, I'm not trying to dismiss you, Patrick. I just do not agree that Tajay Spears is on any kind of same level as Todd Gurley. And it's okay to disagree. That's fine. Hands down, I'll go point for point, stat for stat with you. Yeah, but stat for stat, that doesn't really mean everything, especially when it comes to college football. He is not the guy that Todd Gurley is, unfortunately, and I think the NFL kind of just showed us that. What trade value does Mike want? Because even though Todd Gurley had the injury, the knee problems coming in, he was still drafted number 10 overall, where Spears was drafted third round. So it's different. The NFL is exactly telling us what they feel there, and they're better evaluators than we ever can all be. What trade value does Mike Williams have? Mike Williams is a good one. I think for this particular year, he still has decent trade value. Maybe you can get a late second for him. I think we're at the point now, though, that you might want to wait till the season happens and he maybe has a big game or so, and maybe you can get off of him for a little bit more. I don't know. It depends what other players, what other GMs feel about him out there. I mean, now that you've got Quentin Johnston, Quentin Johnston probably ends up in the slot with Keenan and what's his name outside. I mean, that would be more ideal to help Quentin Johnston, especially early on. And Mike Williams is a guy that just has never been able to stay healthy. There are people that just won't touch Mike Williams. But yeah.
Yeah, I took Mike Williams in my first year of our home league fantasy, and he was really awesome. But the inconsistency and the injuries always seem to creep up at the worst possible time. So I ended up trading him after that first year to tear up. You know what I mean? And I looked at it like, hey, listen, he probably maximized his value, not last year, but the year before that, before he got the contract. And I traded him because I said, I think that was the ceiling year for him 2 years ago. When he came out of the gate strong, and then he was pretty much inconsistent after probably week 5 or so. He had his moments here or there, but it was just like, damn, bro, like he would just disappear for games at a time. You're just like, this guy's really good. We know what he could do, but for whatever reason, the consistency and the injury history creeps up.
Yeah. Coming out of college, all measurements, all grades, Spears is a better prospect. That's not true. Easier comparison because their knees are similar. It's like the dude's frail. He ain't gonna just take one hit and get snapped. It will be a deer. Well, that's the problem. It will be a deterioration over time, and the problem is that time has already started. It already began, and that can happen at any point in time. Gurley was, I think, like 6'1", 220 ish. I mean, Spears is 5'10", 201. So there's a size difference there as well. Both of them didn't do the combine, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, the number 10 overall pick in the NFL is a lot different than the third round pick. No, not really. Is there anyone else here that would agree that Tajay Spears and Todd Gurley are on any sort of same level? I guess we can let the chat decide that. If you don't want to, it's okay to have different opinions. If you want to roll for Tajay Spears, who's not even going to be the starter on his team, Gurley was the guy automatically there from day one. And there are plenty of teams that needed a running back before the third round pick 18 that the Titans took Tajay Spears. There were plenty of teams that passed up on Tajay Spears. Where were we? Back to talked about Devonta. AJ Brown, yeah, I mean he's my dynasty wide receiver 4. I can't put him over CD. I don't know how much better can AJ do better than what he did last season.
That feels like a max out type season.
Is
And
that
right
max
out the
out?
box?
Right,
Yeah.
1,590 catches, 11 TDs.
That feels like you squeezed everything out of that combination. Now, I could see a situation where Devonta gets more yardage, but AJ Brown's touchdowns might go up. He could go up to 12, 13 touchdowns, maybe cut down a little bit of his yardage. And have Devonta make up that slacking yardage. So I could see that, but obviously we know what AJ Brown is. And he put it all together this season with Jalen Hurts, because we kind of started questioning him a little bit, especially his health wise. And it's like, yo, listen, if AJ Brown can stay healthy, when he was in Tennessee, that's what we were questioning. Can you stay on the field? He stayed on the field, and you saw what the result was.
Yep. Yeah, so that's kind of where I have AJ. I'm not really looking at any of these other wide receivers. And Goddard, like we said, top 5-ish, top 6-ish. Dynasty tight end. What did he wind up doing last year? I know he got hurt, obviously. Where is he at?
He was still really good, even on a points per game basis.
Goddard was 55 for 702. Played 12 games. So I mean, shit, 1,000-yard season is not totally out of the realm of possibility, right? Does Goddard get a little bit more work, too?
Yeah, that's definitely
Now you got those 3 guys there, and they do like to run the ball as well. So it will be interesting to see. I think easily. Well, I don't want to say easily they win the division, because I think Dallas is a good second, but I still think that they are a little bit better.
I would agree.
Than Dallas.
I think this division is probably one of the easier ones to predict. It's going to be Philly, Dallas, Giants, then Washington. I don't think you could make the argument for Dallas to be ahead of Philly, but you kind of got to like everything that Philly put together. But that's how I see it. Philly, Dallas. I think Dallas will be a wild card team. I think the Giants will be right on the outside looking in at like 9-8. I could see Dallas being like 10-7, and then Philly winning 12 or 13.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. We're almost at like the season already. I mean, when you think about it.
Well, not exactly. There's still an entire summer to go by.
Bro, that's a couple months. I mean, shit, we're right back in the swing. What is it? We're talking about less than 90 days until the first game, right? Or no? No, more than that.
A little more,
I guess, because that would be
a little less than that. Split the difference.
Damn.
100 days.
When is it? September, right? Isn't it around September 11th, 9th, some shit like that typically?
First week of September.
First week and a half in September.
So you're looking about 100 days, give or take.
Damn. I don't like Spears. Gurley was much more talented. Yeah, I agree that Gurley was much more talented. Listen, there were guys that went crazy in college last year that are not, ranked above, Bijan or other guys, just because, competition, talent. There's a lot of things that go into it, right? It's not just the numbers, because there's different talent levels and different, college conferences and shit like that. Gurley 224, Spears 200. Yeah, so they're about a 20, 25 pound difference. It's just your face, Stevie. I still love you, even though you're wrong. It's all right. I still love you too, even though you're always wrong, Patrick. No, I'm joking.
Hey, fire it off.
I'm joking. I mean, I'd be upset too if I was a Browns fan. No, I actually do like the Browns this year. I do like Deshaun Watson this year. Listen, we've we've been advocating for Deshaun Watson for a while, especially in super flex leagues where he's, lost value, for a little bit, and people are down on him and willing to
He's a
trade
good
him,
buy. He's a good
and he's
buy.
available. So yeah, he's an absolutely, good buy. I expect him to do, better this year. I think Chubb is also a crazy good kind of, win now buy guy because they've got literally no one else there. I mean, Jerome Ford is the second guy there, and that it might just stay that way. So it's going to be interesting with Chubb. I think Chubb has a real chance to. I think in redraft I might be taking some chances on Chubb because he's got an opportunity to be like the guy. Well, yeah, obviously he was always the guy, but there's no more like Hunt there to really split things. I think
Siphon
Jerome,
off.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think Jerome Ford will be more involved and get some work, but Chubb is still going to see the majority of that work in what should be a better offense than what they were, what they were last year. So, all right, Patrick, that I agree with you on. He was definitely on his way, like we said. I think he had 700 in like 12 games. So, yeah, another 5 games or so, he definitely could have been on his way to that Bow Wow. Which I expect T.J. Hawkinson might be hitting that Bow Wow this year. I mean, he had I think he had 60 catches last year once he came to the Vikings. I think in the 10 games he had 60 catches or something like that. He had like 88 or 85 catches or some shit like that last year. So I'm excited for Hawkinson as well. But Goddard, yeah, I mean he could very well. He's just got to stay healthy. Very well on his way to that 1,000-yard season. But guys, throw any other questions out there before we get up out of here. And who do y'all have winning the NFC East? I know Derek is going to say the Cowboys, but
Which is a legitimate. That's not pie in the sky.
no, it's not. It's not. It's not. I think they do have a legit shot. Obviously, them and the Eagles are going to be the top two squads there. And last week we did the AFC East. What do you guys think about the AFC East? Buffalo, Miami, New England, and the Jets. How do you think that is going to end up
I think that's going to be a lot more
as well?
up in the air. I think the NFC East, obviously, it's got to be Philly with Dallas.
What I say last week? I said Jets, Miami, Buffalo last week, didn't I? I think I put
Yeah,
Buffalo third.
I said Buffalo, Jets, Miami. But there's a lot of. But the thing is, I'm not. You could make the case for Buffalo, Jets, or Miami. Like
Yeah.
you could legitimately make the case for any of those three teams actually winning that division. So I just roll with my gut. My gut tells me Buffalo's still going to win that division.
That is true. All right. Well, I guess we'll see y'all next week. Thursday we
Yes, sir.
got 420 Hustler show. Wednesday we'll probably do a startup mock draft on Wednesday night. We didn't do it last week because we had what's his name? Matt Woolman on the show on Thursday, so I didn't do a show on Wednesday because Thursday was a long day. But let us know what other kind of content you guys want to see or want us to do. Because since we're on fucking 3 nights a week, pretty much every week, I mean, there's only so much that I could think of to talk about that I haven't talked about already. But yeah, let us know if there's anything you guys want us to, have a show on in particular to focus on. That will help y'all out or that y'all want to see or know about. But you got anything else, Hammer? Oh, guys, we still got 2 spots left in our subscriber league that I am trying to fill so that we can start right away. Start 10 Superflex, tight end premium, $200 up front, 100 a season. We're paying for the first 2 seasons up front. We are looking to start as soon as possible, as soon as we get everybody paid up. So if you are interested, hit me in the DMs or hit me on Sleeper, and I'll send you the link so that you can get in. But we are looking for two more GMs to fill that.
Yeah, we're pretty much ready to roll. We just need these last 2 guys, and
like Hawkinson. Yeah, Hawkinson's nice.
Hopefully we could get that done in the next couple of days.
Yeah, Tillman, I like Patrick. Actually, Tillman, I like. I don't know how much longer Amari Cooper is going to last there because obviously he's getting up there in age. You've got Peoples Jones, who I'm not really a fan of. He's had enough years to kind of prove the type of player that he is, and I think he just kind of is who he is at this point. Elijah Moore, I love Elijah Moore this year. I've got him in a bunch of leagues. Just getting him incredibly late, so I really like him there. And then Tillman is definitely a guy that I like as well. I don't know how soon it's going to come together for him. Maybe it takes a season or two to him really turn into form. But can it be Amari Cooper, Tillman, and Elijah Moore, or is something of that nature? We'll see. For the draft, I had the Cowboys, but the way the Eagles finessed the damn draft, man,
Yeah.
it's hard to go Dallas. Yeah, and that's the other thing is the Eagles got a lot better,
Yep.
defensively as well. Like they were able to get a ton of guys at value in that draft. Buffalo, then Miami, and Jets, and a slobber knocker.
It's going to be crazy. That division is going to be so fun to watch.
Well, and Buffalo just worries me because they're really not that good. Like they don't have that great player.
They
Like
got,
no, just
but they
think
got the
about
great,
it. Like
but they got the great equalizer.
just think about it seriously. They have Josh Allen, yes. They have Stephon Diggs, but outside of that, which we saw in the playoffs, like it's not good enough to overcome
I
some of
agree
these
with
other
that.
teams where you've got two other great teams in that division in Miami and the Jets, of course, if everyone stays healthy, that it might be tough for Buffalo to really pull out with that division. I think so, especially
Yeah,
with the
I
good defense, and the
agree.
Jets and Miami defense ain't that bad either. So, like, I think that's why I have Buffalo as third. I think there is a world where they wind up coming in third in that division. Now they can still
Well,
make the playoffs, but I don't know if they win that division.
well, one of those three teams is going to finish third. Like there's
Yeah, exactly.
so, so who's it going to be? And
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think we'll be surprised if it's any one of those three teams because we feel like, but like you said, I think all those teams can win double digit games. Like all those teams have the capability of winning 10 plus.
Mm.
So
But I think the biggest thing with is that the Jets with Aaron Rodgers is how good he is and how much like he doesn't turn the ball over much. Like he wins a lot of games. And the Jets could have won a lot more games last year, obviously, with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So I think that just being even in the game a lot more with Aaron Rodgers, like it's going to be rough. Like they're not going to lose some of these close games. Sometimes that maybe Buffalo might lose or Miami might lose. I don't know. Rodgers just kind of gives them that extra like win,
that edge. Yeah.
when they need it, right? Like,
Yeah. Agree. Oh,
York cheesecakes.
yeah.
I love me some cheesecake, bro. Cheesecake is.
I went to the Cheesecake Factory for Mother's Day. Yo, that shit
Did
is
you?
delicious, bro. Yeah, the cheesecake is amazing.
What's Fred Warner worth in Dynasty? That's tough because I haven't really done the IDP for a while. This is the first year I'm doing, well, I've done IDP in one of my other leagues, but it's not like the hustle league where it's real. We're starting 9 defensive guys on defense, which is a lot different. So Fred Warner is typically, let me see where he went here. He's typically one of probably the top 10-ish guys that come off the board at that position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he's one of the top 10 guys that are going to come off at that position, at the linebacker position. So I want to say he's probably worth like a second round pick. I mean, I don't really know how I'm even calculating this, but I guess he's kind of worth like a second round. What he would be basically an early second round pick between some of these guys that are kind of going in this range, maybe even a late first, right? I mean, A round after, Brandon Ayuk, Amari Cooper, same round as like, AJ Dillon, Miles Sanders, Brian Robinson, Dotson, Jahan Dotson, Kadarius Toney, Deontay Johnson. So he looks like he's in that kind of range. So yeah, I guess I want to say like an early second, maybe a late first that he's worth. Just from what I've seen in hustle leagues. Now, obviously, every league is different, so it could be different depending on how many starters you got to play on defense, or if there's a different kind of scoring system. But I guess I would put him right in that range there. It's kind of crazy to think a defensive player is worth maybe a late first round pick.
Yeah.
When the scoring is the way that it is, it's a thing. But guys, thank you for tuning in. Smash that like for us if you haven't already. Smash that subscribe if you came to hang out with us today, if it's your first time. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Be active.
Last.
Throw some messages in here. We're constantly on. We're here every Sunday. Next week we'll talk about another division. I'm gonna try and put out some more videos of like some buy sell stuff, but it's just been rough trying to edit all these things. So that's why we do the live show. So we're always here. We're always here live, for y'all, for the people. That's what we do. New England going to say screw us and win the division. Yeah, that's one thing that I probably don't think is in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, no,
unless all three of these quarterbacks get hurt.
And even then.
Because Mike White will come in from Miami slinging that bitch.
Right. Zach Wilson will come. Never mind. You don't want Zach Wilson coming in and slinging.
Zach Wilson. No way.
If you're the Jets, you don't want Zach Wilson slinging anything.
Only thing he's slinging is that D to them MILFs. That's what he's doing.
That's so true.
Yeah. All right, guys. We out of here. Peace out, y'all. Again, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all y'all. Peace.